Hey everybody, welcome back. It's me, and today we're going to talk about The Creator, and is it a masterpiece? Okay, so I'm not going to bury the lead. Is it a masterpiece? Right off the bat? No. No, it's not. And you're going to see some frustration on my face because it could have been, it should have been, it was swinging for the fences, and the last third of the movie, there are some things happened that doesn't ruin the movie, not completely, but it took me out of it. And just as a short, I'll explain a little bit more later, but it basically, there was just too many conveniences that kind of ruined the moments. But there's tons and tons and tons that I absolutely loved about this film. First of all, I love sci-fi. So this movie was right up my alley. And as far as like the world building, the scale, and when you consider the budget that they did this on, it was absolutely spectacular. Not one time that I watched this film that I saw a special effect that I'm like, oh, that looks a little wonky there, or this doesn't look very, it was magnificent, top to bottom. By the way, if you can take a split second and go down and hit the like and subscribe, that'll help the channel a lot. So Gareth Edwards is the one who directed this film, and he also did Rogue One, and 2014 he did Godzilla. And this movie, it's been 7 years since he did Rogue One. So I guess he's pacing himself, but he did a great job on this, and his vision of what he wanted to do was it was perfect. It was great. That actually leads me into something else. The budget of this film was about $80 million, which is, again, not super, super crazy, but for a sci-fi movie, it's pretty reasonable. And there's a couple of things that he did to make it this awesome. He didn't spend the money on building elaborate sets or doing complete CGI worlds. He went to 80 different locations to film with a $4,000 handheld camera on a gimbal, where normally these big budget films are doing like either Reds or ARRI cameras that are like anywhere between $50,000 and $200,000, $300,000. It's insane, right? So he did this on the small camera that anybody, you can buy it at Best Buy. You can go on Amazon, order it right now, it'll be here tomorrow. And that's how he cut his costs. And then he only focused on the CGI, on what he wanted to add to what he had filmed, not creating this entire world in a CGI world that just costs astronomical numbers. It's also an embarrassment to the studios and Hollywood as of today to see what he could do, and because the special effects are way better than virtually anything that's out there. And I do mean that. It's magnificent. Ant-Man, Quantumania. I just watched The Expendables. You see these movies, Indiana Jones. Those movies were up to $250, $300 million, and the CGI still looks like crap. This guy did a phenomenal job, and he put his money, he budgeted appropriately, and you come out with a movie that you believe the world, you swallow it whole, and you embrace it. It was spectacular. Now, truth be told, I'm kind of a sucker for atmospheric movies that have a great tone, a good, really gritty or beautiful to look at. So some of my favorites like Dune or Blade Runner 2049, or even The Batman, those movies that make the atmosphere of the world be part of it. It draws you in, makes you feel like you're really part of the story. That's true art right there. So the movie's basically about AI and how in the United States it became illegal to have AI because they actually bombed a nuclear bomb over Los Angeles, killed over 1 million people. So the United States made it illegal for AI and robots like that. And in New Asia, they have actually embraced AI as literally family members or replacements for family members. And so they live in harmony there, and the United States is trying to eradicate them from the world. Simple premise. Now what happens is that AI actually developed a super weapon that the humans were worried were gonna wipe out humans, and it turns out that the super weapon is the little girl you see in the trailer. Okay, so she's played by Madeleine Yuna Voyles. Now, let me say this very specifically. She's a child actor. She is one of the best child actors I have ever seen. Her performance was believable. It had weight, it had levity, she had seriousness when she needed that. Either her handlers, who were instructing her in how to act like this, were magnificent, and or she's just got absolute spectacular raw talent. Regardless, her performance was perfection. Opposite of her is John David Washington, Denzel Washington's son. I know that there has been some criticism saying that he's a little bit too stoic and not a lot of emotional range for him. But to be honest with you, he's a soldier in this movie, and he's not supposed to. And I think that he breaks that stoicism at the right moments, in the right scenes, at the right time, to show that he did really, really a nice job on this film. So Allison Janney, she plays the Colonel, does a fantastic job in this as well. And let me tell you something, she's an asshole. And I mean that in the best possible way. That character, the director set her story up and how they wrote her in just a few moments of screen time to establish where she was. You understood her backstory, you understood her motivations, and you understood why she was doing everything that she was doing to further this story along. It was great. Okay, so what do I rate this movie? Unbelievably, as much as I love so much of this movie, I'm only going to give it an 80. But at the same time, I'm also going to highly recommend you go out and see this film. Because the shortcomings of it, and I'll get into that in just a second, the shortcomings are not something that go, oh, that's a trash movie, you shouldn't see it. You should see this film. And to see what you can do on a modest budget when you put your efforts where they should be and end up with the product that they did was really spectacular. It's something that you should see for sure. Okay, so now the problems. And slight spoilers, but I'm not going to get into super specifics, but here's the thing. The last third of the movie, there was basically convenience after convenience after convenience after convenience. Things that the world that you set up, that you established, would not happen this way. And then all of a sudden these conveniences happen and it took you out of the movie a little bit. Again, not so much that I was like, oh, that's ridiculous. It was just enough to kind of damage my afterthoughts of the film. And that's the shame. That's the sad part about it, because it was full steam ahead, all cylinders cranking. It was just going to be amazing. And then those things are the things that actually take it down. So specifically in one instance, they were going somewhere and they just happened to go exactly where they needed to be. By accident, kind of, right? You didn't see a plan. It was just all of a sudden it just went there. And then there's a little girl who's never had like super strength or anything crazy, is suddenly able to get a human or a full-bodied robot off of this thing and then drag this person somewhere a few hundred yards someplace else. And you're just watching that and you're like, that doesn't make any sense of how it is. But it was all for this setup of this end piece that happened, this kind of iconic moment in the film. And the same thing, it was like there was this massive catastrophic event that was going on that all of a sudden you're going to go from this thing that's over here and just kind of end up over here. It was simply by convenience, just so that this moment could happen. That's the saddest part about the film. But again, I'm going to stress it one more time. It's still worth seeing. It's great to see what a great filmmaker, that take their time, budget properly, put out something that just is visually spectacular. And even though they didn't stick the landing, it's still a really, really good film. Anyway, thanks so much for stopping by. We'll see you next time. Don't forget to like and subscribe down below.